All right, good morning to all attending the RTA's virtual meeting of the Board of Directors. Despite the fact that several of us are gratefully here in the room and in attendance together for the first time in a long time, the Governor's emergency declaration remains in force during the COVID-19 pandemic, and pursuant to his executive orders declaring a public health emergency and recent amendments to the Open Meetings Act, we continue to operate under the permission to conduct our meeting without physical attendance requirements. As the head of this public body, I find it not prudent or practical to hold an in-person meeting or to have staff or any members of the board at our headquarters mandated under this during this meeting. The format for our meeting today will be slightly different from the meetings over the past year and a half. While this meeting is still being conducted virtually, we do have several, and I'm so glad to see them, RTA board members present here in person at the RTA offices. It's the first time we've used this conference room for our meetings, and this will hopefully be a space that will begin to be occupied again in the coming weeks. Since this meeting is still a transitional one for us in this room, we may experience a couple of hiccups as we did when we transitioned to virtual meetings more than a year ago. So if that's the case, please bear with us. Our IT staff has done yeoman's work, but when you're changing meetings and changing equipment like this, anything's bound to happen, as I think you'll all understand. Before we get going, I want to welcome Director Liz Gorman to the RTA board. I've known Director Gorman for a number of years, and her appointment is to represent the suburban Cook County seat vacated last month by retiring board member John Friga. Director Gorman is a distinguished former member of the Cook County board, where she was a commissioner, and previously she was the executive director of the Illinois Tollway. She's going to be a tremendous addition to our board, and Liz, we so look forward to working with you. I'll also add here that I was delighted that Director Colson has been reappointed, so I thank the county board for their excellent decision making over the last couple of weeks. Let's review the guidelines for our meeting today. For those who are physically present here, we'll follow the CDC guidance regarding mask requirements and vaccinations. For those joining us virtually, please keep your audio on mute as much as possible to minimize background noise, which may impair the recording of this meeting. When you have a question or a comment, please raise your virtual hand, which I think you've gotten good at over the last year or so. And as I welcome Liz, I want to welcome Jeremy LaMarche, who is our new board secretary. Audrey, if you're watching, we miss you. Hopefully you're still sleeping and not watching us, but Audrey, we miss you. But Jeremy, welcome to your new role as secretary. You've helped us in so many other capacities previously. This is just an additional duty that Jeremy's taken on, and we deeply appreciate it. When Jeremy calls on you, lower your hand and unmute before you begin speaking. Are there any questions at this time? If not, I will now officially call the meeting of the Board of Directors of the Regional Transportation Authority to order. And with that, if you're present, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. And if you're virtual, join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. David, we can see you but not hear you.
Yeah. think we've lost audio.
Mm-hmm.
I can't hear them at all.
I have it either.
I can't hear anybody.
Okay, so it's not just me.
Can't hear anything.
I can't hear anything either.
I'm going to see if I can
Oh, it's
send a
good to
note.
see you, Sarah.
To see you. I hear you.
It just went out all of a sudden.
Yeah.
I'll send a note to Jeremy.
It's like we're in two rooms, the virtual and the in-person.
Director Lewis, you said you just sent a note. Was that you talking?
Yes.
Okay, because I was getting ready to send him a note too, but I won't send him twice.
Okay. I just sent it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Director Indelcio, can you hear us now?
I can hear you.
Excellent.
Director Untitled.
Here.
Director Canty.
Here.
Director Carey. Here. Director Colson.
Here, but I can't connect the camera, but I'm here.
Director Fuentes. Here. Director Gadding.
Here.
Director Gorman. Here. Director Groven.
Here.
Director Holt. Here. Director Lewis. Director Lewis, you're on mute.
President, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes. Director Melvin.
Here.
Melvin. You're on mute as well, Director. Coming back, Director Pang.
Here.
Ross.
Here.
Director Sager. Here. Chairman Dillard. Here. Going back to Director Melvin.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
And thank you. 15 present, one absent.
Okay.
Next is item 4. That's public comment. We've asked the public to submit their comments via electronic mail. Comments are allowed and read into the record by the board secretary. And Julie, do you have any comments for anybody wishing to?
No comments this time.
Okay. Thank you. Then we'll move on to item 5.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everyone, those on screen and in person. It is good to be with some of you at least today. So thinking back on this, back in February when we shut down, end of February, nobody would have thought in February 2020 that we'd be this long before we'd be back and starting to conduct some meetings in our offices again. So those of you who are here, I want to welcome you back to our renovated or updated office space. And as we noted too, we are still trying to work out some of these kinks and dust off some of these cobwebs with our technology, etc. But I'm happy to tell you that we are going to be welcoming staff back in August, and sort of a soft opening, I think, if you will, and then more formal back to work by September, which is sort of the game plan that we have here with us. Our mobility customer service staff will resume in-person operations here and at their other remote locations around the region starting August 2nd as well. Both today and as we have staff return, our intention is always to adhere to the strict guidance and adjust accordingly as pandemic and COVID will deal with. So along with the rest of the country, our transition back to the office we believe is going to be smooth in some places, but there will be some bumps along the way in other areas. Our goal is to continue to support our staff and our customers, prioritise everyone's health and safety, and continue to serve the region's transition as our stakeholders, with our stakeholders as we all work through this. We appreciate your presence here today and support as we sort of move through this transition. And I just want to apprise you of two pieces of positive news ahead of today's, before we dive into today's agenda. This month, we concluded our triennial review by the Federal Transit Administration. As the name implies, it's a review conducted every 3 years by the RTA and entails a real deep dive and in-depth look into all our agency policies and procedures as they relate to the use and application of federal funds that we receive from them. And I'm pleased to report that the RTA found nothing that needed any remedying. And I want to thank Nadine and her team for leading that review, as well as the many RTA staff that worked on that. It's a pretty intense effort for 3 days, as well as a lot of planning, organization, and lead-up work in advance of that. So thanks to everyone for ensuring that smooth process, and ultimately, I wanted to share that with you. Also, last week, some of you may have already noticed this, we learned that Moody's upgraded our long-term debt and our reset securities from a negative outlook to a stable outlook. According to Moody's, this rating change is the result of the resilience of the regional sales tax revenue and a reduction in exposure to delays in state payments. So this rating upgrade comes in tandem with notable progress on the state's fiscal situation, as well as a slow and steady increase on sales tax and ridership across our region. Both the stats, the Moody's upgrade, and the Clean Training Review report are really testaments, I think, to the hard work that our staff have continued to do in cooperation with all 3 service boards. So moving on to next slide. The core of today's agenda is your consideration and vote on new performance-based capital allocation structure. As you recall, after our last board meeting in which that structure was presented at length, we held a public comment period to solicit feedback. In your packet today and on the website, the public comments we received. In a moment, Jill Leary will go into that with you and discuss the adjustments that we have made in response to those comments. I'd like to take a moment before to thank the community of officials, advocates, civic groups who did work with us by comment. Their understanding and passion is really vital to the region's transit system, the role the transit system plays to our region, to our economy, our environment, and the paramount importance that is being acceptable, equitable, and responsive to changing needs that are critical to our region's overall success. I truly want to thank them for engaging and widening our reach to include many other regional stakeholders, and we plan to actually include many other regional stakeholders as we embark on step 3 of our continued COVID recovery strategy. In August, we will be engaging this board in a strategic conversation about that approach, and I look forward to bringing the civics and other stakeholders, elected officials' voices and ideas into these conversations about the future of transit, and giving that input to us and our staff. And we'll be bringing certainly that back with you as well. And really that is under the umbrella of the strategic vision that we are looking to update with an eye towards immediate recovery, revitalization, and ultimately reinvention over the coming years. All wrapped up into sort of the strategic plan update that we've talked about before. So today's vote on the capital allocation structure is an important step forward on our implementation of our Invest in Transit strategic plan, our evolution towards performance-based and transparent allocation of funds, and our collaborative efforts with the service board to best ensure the best use of all those investments. This is an evolving process, and our conversation that began with the push to pass Rebuild Illinois, and then we'll continue into the strategic planning process that will be ongoing. As we have said all along, this now agreed upon approach is not perfect, but it represents progress that we will build on during the very important work we'll be doing as we develop that next strategic plan. And I look forward to the discussion today and next month as we really kick off that strategic planning work. So next slide, please. In Washington, negotiations on further infrastructure investments have continued. June 24, President Biden announced his support of a bipartisan $1.2 trillion infrastructure agreement framework. The broad framework included top-line spending numbers and a general consensus on potential revenue to pay for those new investments. The infrastructure framework was developed by a group of 20 Republican and Democratic lawmakers who have met for the past several weeks to try and come to an agreement on the spending on traditional investments for transit, rail, road, bridge, and airport infrastructure as well. The agreed framework currently contains approximately $579 billion in new spending over 8 years, with $49 billion in new spending directed towards public transit and another $66 billion in new spending directed towards passenger and freight rail. As I think everybody knows, there is a lot going on in DC. So on a parallel path, the House passed the Surface Transportation Reauthorization bill on July 1st. That bill contains $547 billion for surface transportation infrastructure over the next 5 years, including $109 billion for public transit and $95 billion for passenger and freight rail. So, suffice it to say, it's still a little unclear how these infrastructure discussions will progress moving forward. The Senate Banking, Housing and Urban Affairs Committee that has jurisdiction over transit policy and its programs could take up discussions on a separate transit reauthorization proposal soon. Discussions would potentially follow the broad top-line spending numbers from the bipartisan infrastructure agreement, but we haven't seen any actual language around that legislation to date. Jeremy and I are keeping very looped in. We continue to talk with our partners across the country, both at APTA as well as our big old legacy system partners across the country as well as our congressional delegation as this develops. So, final slide on the state delinquencies. Just very quickly, through the end of June, the state owes the RTA $162.7 million in a combination of the reimbursement for debt service and the sales tax match, PTS, as it's referred to. The state is about 12 months behind on the debt service reimbursement. However, we are optimistic that they are looking to even do a bit more catch-up on that as well. And essentially, the state is basically current on the sales tax match. The sort of the 1 month lag, which is really all it is just a lag in the regular processing of those payments. So that is all good news. And I think that is also sort of reflected in some of the Moody's upgrade, et cetera. So that concludes my report for today. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions of there are no virtual hands raised. I don't see any hands raised here in the
I'm sorry. Director can't get the question.
It's not a question on the substance, but I'm wondering if we can get the chairman to move a little bit closer to a microphone. He's just a little bit muted for those of us that are virtual.
Thank you. Is that better?
You're welcome.
It's interesting, like the automakers are waiting for a computer chip. The staff tells me we're waiting for Microsoft stand. So there's a backlog at Microsoft as well. But thank you for calling that out. I appreciate it. Hopefully that's like radio when they tell you to keep the microphone. Let me know. I want to go back to item 3. That is the approval of the actual minutes. The roll call, but we need to approve the minutes of our June 17th, 2021 meeting. Is there any comments or corrections to the minutes? If not, a motion in a second. Director Swinton moved, second by Director Terry. We approved the minutes of June 17th, 2021. With that, Secretary.
Director Andalcio?
Yes, but very difficult hearing.
Director Canty?
Yes.
Director Carey,
Yes.
Director Colson,
Yes.
Director Fuentes. Aye. Director Gadding. Director Gadding,
Yeah.
Norman.
Aye.
Director Groven,
Yes.
Director Holt,
Aye.
Director Cotel.
Aye.
Director
Aye.
Cotel.
Aye.
Director Cotel is present. Director Lewis,
Yes. Yes.
Director Melvin,
Yes, but it's very difficult to hear what's going on in the room for us.
Director Pang,
Here.
Director Ross,
Yes.
Director Sager,
Yes.
and Chairman Dillard.
Yes. And those minutes are approved. Thank you. Thank you.
Good morning, this is Dana Hickey, the CFO from the RTA. Can you hear me? Good to see all of you again, 3D. Today I will cover the year-to-date service board financial results for May. The setting is for informational purposes, you will not be voting. Next slide, please. This chart indicates that system ownership shown by the orange color is including monthly business heavily. The staff year-to-date ridership was 2.1% favorable to the revised regional budget, represented by the community. However, system ridership in May was still at about only 35% of pre-pandemic levels. By starting point, CTA ridership exceeded budget and metro ridership met budget, while PACE and ADA fair transit lagged budget. The current budget assumes that ridership will continue to recover to about 65% of normal by year-end as commuting gradually increases and students return to in-person learning. Next slide, please. You're on. Yeah. For that mic, the mics are not. Yeah. Maybe is it something to do with the microphone? Hello, this is Irina Hickey, Jim Sherman, President of the National
First of all,
I'm not logged in. Okay, he's logged in. He just sent a chat to them to let them know. I don't think it's got the WebEx feed. WebEx is taking this down out of these speakers, correct? Not out of the hand mic?
That's correct.
So are the hand mics actually maybe overbearing these mics, so it's not working so well?
Both of the mics are.
China. Either one is fine.
If you're texting me, can you just tell them we're working on it? I'll put JD.
So try, yeah, try it now. No, we dialed it. Oh, I know. So dialed in. It's in idle. Signed up.
I don't know if it will help, but of everyone speaking, Leanne has been the clearest so far. So I don't know if she's near a microphone.
See, now we can hear now.
Yeah, I think they're picking up the mics from the ceiling. But you want it, Leanne?
Okay, so look, I'm always known to be one of the loudest people.
Yeah, but you know, you just go either here.
Director Ross, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. We're having, I think it's a WebEx issue. And maybe I'll just move and Levisa here. Because maybe the mics, we've got ceiling mics here as well. So probably too much information for those who are now watching this on screen. But yeah, you can go down. I'll hold up my computer.
Okay, this is B. Rena Hickey, the CFO at the RTA. I will be reporting on item 6A, monthly financial results. Can you hear me?
Yes, much better.
Much,
Chairman and
thank you.
Director.
Much better.
Yes, thank
I
you.
will cover year-to-date service board financial results through May. Next slide, please. This chart indicates that system ridership, shown by the orange bars, we need to go back. Okay, good. Is improving slowly but steadily. In fact, year-to-date ridership was 2.1% favorable to the revised regional budget, represented by the dashed line. However, system ridership in May was still at about only 35% of pre-pandemic levels. By service board, CTA ridership exceeded budget and Metro ridership met budget, while PACE and ADA paratransit lagged budget. The current budget assumes that ridership will continue to recover to about 65% of normal by year end as commuting gradually increases and students return to in-person learning. Next slide, please. Okay, now looking at RTA sales tax. Receipts have far exceeded expectations, which is a good problem to have. As Bill mentioned last month, March set an all-time monthly record of 125 million, and we now have indications that April will approach 120 million. Both of those results look more like December, historically our highest sales tax month. The collection of RTA sales tax on a broader range of online purchases, which began in January of this year, has clearly contributed to these sharp increases, producing a total favorable variance of 58.2 million to budget. And that does not even include April results yet. The 9.3% unfavorable funding variance for ADA paratransit is due to lower than anticipated PRISA requisitions, which are expected to catch up to budget as we move forward. The sudden sales tax rebound will necessitate a second 2021 RTA funding amendment in the next month or two. Keep in mind that improving RTA funding reduces the need for federal relief funding. This is good in that the relief funding will last longer, but it also creates a math problem in the financial results, which I will get to in a minute. Next slide, please. System-wide operating expenses through May were 35.6 million, or 3% favorable to the revised budget and highlighted in light blue, with each service board reporting favorable expense variances. Note that Metro's actual expense results have come back in alignment with their revised budget. ADA paratransit expenses have also been under budget, where recovering ridership is expected to increase ADA expenses in the coming months. Next slide, please. Now the math problem I referred to earlier. Those impressive sales tax results are constraining the amount of federal relief funding being drawn down by the service boards. This is because they can only requisition themselves back to a break-even financial condition. For recovery ratio purposes, relief funding is included in operating revenue and is causing operating revenue to fall short of budget, as shown by all the red on this table. In total, operating revenue was 46.4 million, or 9.1% unfavorable. To summarize the math problem, total revenue lopsided with too much sales tax and not enough fare revenue. This imbalance is particularly acute for Metro, with operating revenue falling 30 million short of budget through May. If RTA sales tax continue to overperform as we now expect it to, this math problem will worsen and also become an issue for CTA PACE and the region. While we don't yet have a solution, at least we understand the problem as we continue to explore some temporary recovery relief ratio. And I'll speak more about some ideas that we have in a little bit. Next slide, please. I'll close with the recovery ratio slide. Through May, the service boards included a total of 329 million of federal relief funding and operating revenue, almost 25 million less than budgeted. With that relief funding included, the regional recovery ratio was 52.5%, but that was still almost 2 full percentage points under budget. Notably, Metro's recovery ratio was unfavorable by 10.1 points. Summary, the strong sales tax results and good expense performance are mitigating the need for relief funding, leading to unfavorable operating revenue and a deteriorating recovery ratio. We will closely monitor this. Some potential solutions are to seek temporary recovery ratio relief from the state, to work with service boards to pay down debt, to identify other possible eligible operating expenses, to allow for possible recovery ratio credits. This is part of a broader picture. Bottom line, it is a good problem to have because it will allow us to carry over federal relief funding into future years when we don't know what the new normal looks like. This concludes my remarks. I'll try my best to answer any questions. Back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Bea. Any questions of the board or comments?
I've got my hand raised, but if I may speak, please.
Please, go ahead, Director Melvin.
Yeah, Bea, great report. I mean, it's nice to see all that blue. And it's very interesting. Anxious to hear your thoughts about coming up with creative solutions to the problem. Anxious to hear about that. But you're right. It's a great problem to have. So thank you for a good report.
Thank you.
And the Moody's news was good. Then we'll move on to item 7. Thank you, Bea. Item 7 includes items that require board action today. We'll hear from the staff on these items, and then we'll vote on them individually after any remarks or questions from the board. The first is item 7A, and that's the ordinance authorizing the performance-based capital allocation process. And Jill is joining me here at the end of the conference table.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everybody. At any point on the WebEx, if the board member can't hear me or stop hearing me.
Yeah, if you could speak up just a little bit, appreciate it, please.
Sure. So just to say again, if any board members on the WebEx, if I break up at any point, please interrupt me so I can stop. So following up from our presentation last month, I'm here today to request your approval on an ordinance authorizing the performance-based capital allocation process. Fine. As a reminder, let's go over the background on how we got to this point. In 2019, when we were initially programming the new state funds from Rebuild Illinois, RTA worked with the service boards to determine principles that would be used to lead the prioritization and programming of the capital in the state of Illinois. Work we did in 2020 was to enact these principles and to develop the draft investment framework that was presented to the board last year. Public comment on the investment framework and COVID uncertainty led to the decision to leave the capital funding unallocated and placed in a regional set-aside, but the draft investment framework was incorporated into the 2021-2025 operating and capital budget developed in the fall of 2020. This past spring, RTA and service board staffs met to develop a structure for capital allocation through a performance-based structure, and we presented that to you at last month's board meeting. Summarize what we discussed last month. We are focused on capital funds, specifically the federal formula funds, and the state pay-go funds. The first step of this new process would be to allocate to each service board their percent of by their annual meeting system to a state 20 years. Second step is to apply performance measures to 50% of the allocated funds. As a final piece, we would further require that 20% of the total funds allocated be spent on projects that advance the core requirements of accessibility and equity as an additional means to funds are spent towards these objectives. Slides. Presented this process to you at your June meeting and then released the document for public comment through July 1st. RTA Communications promoted the opportunity stakeholder email, blog posts, and social media posts. 3 letters were received, and I will briefly summarize those today, and the letters were also included. Several organizations that are listed on the slide here submitted a co-signed letter requesting the RTA board to delay adoption of the proposed allocation structure until RTA makes improvements to prioritize innovation, creates a process to fund regionally significant across service boards, updates the state of good repair data, and clearly defines equity and accessibility projects with. Second letter was received from Cook County Board President Tony Preckwinkle. This letter requests that RTA make specific provisions to achieve more seamless transfers for a universal fare with discounted transfer. The amount of set-asides to directly select projects that advance regional and set higher targets than 20% of capital funds directed towards projects. Letter also adds that the proposal would benefit by a longer and more public process. Third letter was received from the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus. The letter was received after the public comment period on 12th. This letter requests the RTA board delay adoption to further engage stakeholders. Concerns with the allocation structure are that it lacks true performance measures, access, and economic growth. Further, the view of the caucus is that the sole reliance on state of good repair for distribution of funds missed opportunities to face current incentivize innovation. Letter recommends setting aside a significant amount of funding to be allocated by the RTA board to projects that involve more than one transit agency, are regionally significant, leverage other funding sources, and help achieve regional goals. Evaluation and prioritization of priority projects should also be included. These 3 letters were shared in the board packet for your review. As staff, we appreciate the input engagement in this process. I recommend that topics raised in both letters, all 3 letters, be a part of the next regional transit that will be conducted as part of step 3 of recovery. Meanwhile, we recommend proceeding with the process as outlined, as delaying the allocation process will require setting aside 25 and 26 funds for another year to threaten service board capital construction processes. Adoption of the process now provides a foundation from which to address these concerns. Process continues. That said, we will work to add additional guidance to the service about equity and these core requirements were developed with Invest in Transit, and definitions are included in the June. But we will provide additional guidance to the service boards about definitions for equity and during the budget process. Ensure that projects selected to meet these requirements are fitting and meet. In summary, we are seeking your approval of this process today. We acknowledge what we put together and developed here is not perfect, but it helps us to take a step or two forward in a credible manner based on a lot of previous work, data, analysis, and performance metrics. We hope what we have heard throughout the process and today gets us to a point where we can all stand behind this collectively. Ordinance before you asks you to approve this process and to incorporate it into the protocol approved by you and Matt. Staff will then use this method to calculate the allocations to the state and federal funding sources, including 5 and 27. As provided in the ordinance, per application of the expenditure performance to the, but apply that metric to the 2020 funding. Any funds withheld for a service board due to performance would be set aside, and we will collectively bring to you a final method for allocating these withheld funds by the December board meeting. Method is approved, then the funds will not be withheld until a method is adopted by you. This concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer your questions.
Questions or comments for Jill from the board?
Yeah, thank you. I think we're having a hard time hearing.
Hearing. Yeah.
Look, I'd like to say that I think the RTA board, the staff has done an incredible job here of thinking about things, inviting comments, incorporating lots of concerns, and I think that we should move forward with approval. I got the Metropolitan Mayor's letter this morning. I've read it a few times. There's a lot I'd like to respond to, so I'm sorry that it came in so late. But one glaring piece of this, I think, is the comment about the state of good repair, which I think was mentioned somewhere else as well. I think that they don't appreciate what that means. We've struggled with this issue for a long time. We finally have a chance to make some cures. I think perhaps if they would reconsider their position, they could think about it this way. One, on a user, think about it three ways. There's a user experience, which is very important. It's important to have good, comfortable buses and trains, and to have safe, well-lit stations. Secondly, on an operating basis, if you've got modern equipment, you have to spend less money repairing it. So there's a more efficient use of taxpayer dollars. And lastly, on a gross basis, we're all concerned about people moving out of the region, people moving out of the state. We're clearly in competition with other regions. And this transportation system we have is one of the gems of the region, and a very, very special thing as you look across the nation. And it's incumbent upon us to do everything we can to maintain it so that our region remains attractive and competitive. I had a meeting the other day with a guy who was in Rancho Mirage, and he said he got used to 100 degrees, but he had a hard time with 115. I told him he needed to move to Chicago, and he needed to get out of that craziness. But we remain, net, we need to remain competitive, and this is an important part of it. So I think this is something we should move forward with. Thank you.
Chairman.
Apologies for that. I'll attempt to summarize. I was also sort of troubleshooting at the same time with these guys. Apologies that not all the speakers in here are working. So actually, you guys in the room are actually being hampered perhaps a little bit. And Chris, if you can hear me, tell me if I misspeak representing what you just said. But I mean, the bottom line was that he believes we should move forward with this recommendation. That the recognizing that there might be other things we want to consider in the future and continue to engage in dialogue, but there has been a lot of work put into this to date. That the transit system and recognizing the overwhelming need for investing in the large infrastructure that we have, as sort of an underpinning for any future improvements that we may want to make is critical. And at this point, we haven't moved away from as a region, our state of repair being our first and primary focus. What else should I guess? Is that the gist of it? I think, Chris, do you think that would capture most of what you were saying?
Yes, you captured it all, and you even made me sound good. Thank you.
So that was the gist of it.
Let's anybody else virtually?
Director Canty has a question.
Yeah,
Director Canty?
Yeah, sorry, I used the raise hand function. I just want to say I tend to agree with Director Melvin, and I know we've talked about this a lot. I think this is a very big step in the right direction towards rethinking how we go about funding our service boards and the projects that they do, and encouraging them to work together. I do like this idea of taking what was proffered in these 3 letters and using that in our next phase of recovery and teeing up those conversations that way. I think they make some really important observations and some requests that I think should be taken seriously. But what I don't want to do is have perfect get in the way of progress, right? So I think we have to start somewhere. This framework gives us an opportunity to do that, and then we can continue to take in this feedback and these recommendations from the public, from the Mayor's Caucus, from the advocacy groups, the civic groups, and start working more and more towards a more perfect project process with our defined goals in mind, working from the same script. So I'm inclined to follow this framework. I really appreciate the effort that staff has put in, and I know that it doesn't end here, and for that I'm grateful.
Okay. Do you want me to do, because they still need to want me something?
Yeah, please.
Okay. So I'm sitting here taking notes. Director Canty reflected that it's a step in the right direction, that is good work, encouraging progress, and the collaboration and working together between all the 3 service boards with us. However, she did also note that the use of the comments, using the comments going forward to better guide us and engage in the future conversations that we recognize have to happen. That perfect should not get in the way of this progress to date, but we should work towards getting, I'm saying sort of in air quotes, more done in the future, and that is the intention of sort of the strategic plan and we will engage in going forward.
I cover it, Mary Beth.
Sounds right. That sounds right.
Thank you. We're going to use Leanne as an interpreter for the Olympic Games coming up. That's a great job. Anyone else virtually, Jeremy, that we need to recognize?
I see no other virtual hands at the moment.
Right. Let's go into the room. Director Gary.
I don't know if they can hear me. Do we? You all hear me? Just so we have an explanation. It appears that
okay, that's really loud and yeah.
Can't hear anything.
We all lost the sound again.
Yep.
All right. I just sent a note to Nadine and everyone, it looks like.
So again, clearly those mics aren't helping this information. I seem to be the only voice that is resonating, sadly. Huh?
If you want me to pause.
Too much feedback and echo.
Yeah, as long as we turn up all the audio with the microphones.
Those on camera, JD, Chris, Meredith, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. You.
If anyone speaks,
Yes.
they come here.
Let's stand right here. Is that better?
Yes, that's actually
Oh,
much
God,
better.
we literally should, everyone.
It only works for you.
They speak, they come here.
Okay, so just to, this is, sorry about this, is turning into a bit of a comedy here. And we said we're shaking off the cobwebs. I'm just going to keep coming back to that one. Pat, I don't know if you want to reiterate or do you want me to speak, sort of summarize for you? That the civic groups raised a lot of good points and you agree with many of the points that they raised. However, you disagree with them in the point that state of good repair is a fundamental thing that we still need to be focused on within the transit space. You want to continue challenging us to continue to work on looking at creating a discretionary fund for some kind of competitive fight of dollars with perhaps a focus on climate and other environmental type projects across multiple entities that could be an opportunity. And you want us to continue to continue to engage with stakeholders as we kind of are going through the process, not just sort of towards the end in a formal public comment period. And I'll also editorialize on that, and we will certainly be doing that. And actually, we are going to be kicking off more of a formal public engagement with both legislators, stakeholders, and others, starting actually this fall and continuing throughout the whole strategic plan update process. So, if anyone, beg your indulgence, if you do have in the room want to come and say something, stand under the magic space.
Like Parliament, step into that
Yeah,
space.
it's an interesting thing. First off, I want to express my sincere appreciation to staff. I think that you've done an absolutely yeoman's job of meeting with all of the various players. And I think the service agencies have done a great job of complementing, I think, the stronger, larger efforts. And so I want to thank everybody for their work. Also, I do appreciate very much the civic groups and organizations interactions and dialogue. I think that's been very, very positive, and it is indeed constructive. I think that it has been said more than one time that this is an evolutionary process. We are evolving, and I think that there's a tendency sometimes to think that we're going to be taking an absolute final vote and nothing is going to change from that point, and that simply is not the case. This is an ongoing process, a process that has been engaged in since 2019. I think we're continuing that process. And that doesn't mean that we're going to ultimately come up with this unbelievably fantastic universal model that's just going to have one vote and it's going to be done and over with. We're going to make step-by-step logical and timely decisions. And to me, this decision today is a very important, very logical step for us to be taking today. And so I'm going to support this. I do want to comment, as my colleagues have already stated, and I absolutely agree with the colleagues on the board with regards to two things. The first is with regards to state of good repair. I'm going to liken this, and my apologies, but when you're looking at local municipal governments, we all fall into these traps. When you are looking at the questions about state of good repair or maintenance and innovation, we all want innovation and we all want to move forward, but we can't do that absent making sure that we are taking care of the assets and the resources that we have available to us. State of good repair is an absolute. It's not a choice. It is an absolute. And so I think that we need to be very, very cognizant of that. We got caught on that in a municipal local level when we had economic downturns. And we said, okay, well, we can't afford to pay those high prices down here to take care of our streets and our roads, for example, and our bridges. And here we are today. And we're struggling with those things. We'll have to find the money to take care of those things. So it's really important, I think, that we understand that state of good repair is a foundational requisite. and we can't ignore that. Doesn't mean that we can't focus on innovation, and that takes us to the next part. And I absolutely agree with what the entities that have commented and provided communication to us believe is the fact that we need to work together. We need to work with local units of government. We need to work with the broad base of users to make sure that we are making good, responsible, innovative approaches. And, the fact of the matter is that all of the units of local government out there are working together because we've been forced to do that. We've been forced to really collaborate. And in doing so, there are some fantastic efforts that are going on out there. And we need to get on board with some of those efforts and say, if these are your priorities and you got some fantastic opportunities and you brought money to the table, let's see how we can now maximize the opportunities by partnering with those types of projects. So I think that we really need to be very, very strongly looking at those efforts as well. So I have a lot of agreement with some of the commentary that's come in, but I don't agree that it's time to wait even longer. I think we need to move forward in the process. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Anyone else?
Literally just right there. It's like the movie kind of silence. Right there. The kind of silence. It's the kind of
Magic spot. Thank you. I want to thank everybody that submitted a comment or letter or called me and worked with the staff on our proposed performance-based capital allocation structure. I agree with many of your comments, and I'm going to make sure that we formally respond in writing to each of the comments that were submitted. So you will see something back from us based upon your comments. As it was pointed out, this process is not perfect, but we are clearly moving forward, especially after the implementation of our Invest in Transit. And this furthers the work of the RTA with respect to clearancy and transparency, which is so important around the capital allocation process and the decision making as we use more and more data to make decisions here at the RTA. I look forward to step 3 of the RTA's recovery work, where we can engage in a regional discussion about the future of transit in an open and transparent type of system or manner. And I invite everyone externally who's engaged in this process to continue to engage with us. We got a lot of work to do, and everybody will be at the table. It won't be, as it was pointed out, something that just happens at the end and say, hey, here's 30 days to comment. Everybody will be at the table. Nothing is locked in stone except maybe the 10 commandments. So this is a process that this is not the end of everything today. As it was pointed out, and I so appreciate the board understands this, we are an old legacy system. We went probably a decade without adequate capital funding, primarily from the state of Illinois. So our backlog is massive. We're talking $20 to $30 billion. And I ride this system every day, and I listen to my fellow riders. And as Director Melvin pointed out, we have a responsibility to take care of the underlying backlog of needs that are there for our riders' comfort. We never, ever, ever stretch things on safety, but it's the comfort and the safety of our riders. And the backlog of state of good repair is lost to some, but it's certainly not lost apparently to me or the boards. And the last thing is, I respect the mayors and all of the input of local officials, but we have 3 service boards that we balance every day. And Leanne, the staff, and I try as well as I can to take the proper input from those service boards. Each of those service boards, like our own board members, are appointed by an elected official. But the service boards, clearly also have to be part of this process, and they are. But I tell the folks who send in their letters or comments, you need to understand that we have the service boards to also talk to. So I thank you. This is not the end of the discussion. The public will be, and the civic leaders will be at the table with us. But Jill, thank you, and to the staff. You know, you've done yeoman's work here, but we can't just halt the process this month, and we need to approve the ordinance today. Thanks. With that, Dr. Sager moves we approve, seconded by Director Holt. And Secretary, may you take the roll, please?
Sure. Director Indalcio.
Yes.
Director Canty.
Yes.
Director Carey.
Aye.
Director Colson.
Yes.
Director Fuentes.
Aye.
Director Gavin.
Yeah.
Director Gorman.
Take a minute because I didn't participate. I just want to thank staff for getting me up to speed at this point, you know, with something that's obviously has been thoughtful and exhaustively worked on in providing this ordinance. And I appreciate the chairman's comments that a response will be given to those who did submit comments. And it's great that they'll be responding, you know, in a letter form as well as in the upcoming strategic plan. So with that, I thank you and vote on.
Director Groven.
Aye.
Director Holt.
Aye.
Director Cotel.
Aye.
Director Lewis.
Yes.
Director Melvin. Director Pang.
Yes.
Director Ross.
Yes.
Director Sager.
Yes.
Chairman Dillard.
Yes.
69 ayes, 0.
Thank you. And item 7A is approved. We'll move on to 7B, and that's an ordinance authorizing a contract with ADP for our continued payroll services. B, I think this one's yours.
Yes, I went to the magic spot. The proposed ordinance authorizes us to execute a contract for 7-year period with ADP for $140,746. Including the amendment, the total contract value should not exceed $284,996. The ADP contract was awarded originally in 2014 through a competitive bidding process, and this is our 4th amendment. We are asking for this amendment so that we can leverage fully the interface that was built between our Infor ERP system and ADP, and this will cover us through the period that remains on the Infor contract. That's it. We appreciate your vote.
Any questions or comments?
Director Indalcio.
Oh, David, Dr. Indalcio, you have a question?
No, yeah, I move to approve. Thank you.
Thank you. So Director Indalcio moves, seconded by Director Carey, that we approve item 7B, the ADP payroll services ordinance. Mr. Secretary, take the roll, please.
Director Indalcio.
Yes.
Director Canty.
Yes.
Director Carey.
Aye.
Director Colson.
Yes.
Director Fuentes.
Aye.
Director Gavin.
Yeah.
Gorman.
Aye.
Director Groven.
Aye.
Director Holt.
Yes.
Director Cotel.
Aye.
Director Lewis.
Yes.
Director Melvin. Director Pang. Director Ross.
Yes.
Director Sager.
Yes.
Chairman Dillard.
Yes.
69 ayes, 0 nay.
Thank you. I'll move over here for the conclusions of the meeting. Next is item 7C, the approval of travel expense reimbursements. Any questions on this? They're in your packet. If not, can I have a motion in a second on 7C? Director Holt moves we approve, seconded by Director Gorman. With that, if there's no questions or comments, Mr. Secretary.
Director Indalcio.
Aye.
Director Canty.
Yes.
Director Carey.
Aye.
Director Colson.
Yes.
Director Fuentes.
Aye.
Director Gavin.
Yeah.
Director Gorman. Director Groven,
Aye.
Director Holt,
Yes.
Director Cotel,
Aye.
Director Lewis,
Yes.
Director Melvin, Director Pang,
Yes.
Director Ross,
Yes.
Director Sager,
Yes.
Chairman Dillard,
Yes.
16 ayes, 0 nay.
Thank you. Item 8 is new business. Are there any new business, or is there any new business to come before the board at this time? Seeing none, we will move on, and I want to remind folks, our next scheduled meeting for the RTA board is Thursday, August 19th, beginning at 9 a.m. We anticipate we'll be in a full, we'll have our overheating issues with some of the microphones hopefully taken care of by that time. But I anticipate probably a full in-person meeting in August at this location on the 15th floor of 175 West Jackson in Chicago. And we will follow, obviously, whatever CDC guidelines, state and local health guidelines are in place at that time, and provide the public with information about how they can participate safely in our August 19th meeting as well. The RTA meetings will continue to be live streamed. So even if we're back to in-person meetings, which I anticipate on August 19th, the public certainly can watch them through the internet, and we will also be available not only through the regular internet channels, but also the RTA's YouTube channel. So stay tuned, look at the RTA website for more updates. It has the information on this August 19th meeting and other issues evolve. So with that, thank you for your indulgence. It worked pretty well. And I thank our IT staff. This is their first run really through something like this in our new conference space here. And we all stick together and have stuck together very well through this pandemic. I thank you, board members who are watching or being with us virtually for your indulgence, but it worked out. So all transit, we're flexible and in the end works, and it works in a comfortable way. So thank you, everyone. With that, how about a motion to adjourn? A motion and a second to adjourn. Director Kerry moves, we adjourn, seconded by Director Fuentes. And with that, all those in favor can signify virtually by leaving, and those in the room have all indicated their desire to adjourn as well. So we are adjourned, Mr. Secretary. Thank you, everyone.